In this video, I'm going to show you different types of errors which you might get in your Java program. So we're going to go over three different types of errors which you may get in your Java program. Those errors are compile time error, runtime error, and logical error. So let's start with compile time error. So just like in English language, there are certain rules which we have to follow. For example, every sentence has to start with a capital letter and it has to end with maybe a period or a question mark or exclamation mark. Just like that, Java language has its own syntax rules. So anytime as a programmer, if you don't follow syntax rules, you're gonna get compile time error or errors. So let's look at some examples of compile time errors. So let's say if I write a Java statement, system.out.println, and I want printing a message. Now every statement in Java has to end with a semicolon. So what if I remove this semicolon? I end up getting a compile time error. So this program will not compile. And in NetBeans, it's very easy to spot a compile time error because on the left hand side of your editor window, you're going to see a red dot, which is basically an indication of a compile time error. So if you bring your cursor onto that red dot, you can see that it says a semicolon is expected. But NetBeans will not be always that much specific. Sometimes you may not get any clue what NetBeans is trying to say you. Here is another example. This is our main method, and it has an opening brace and closing brace. What if I remove one of these braces, let's say opening brace? And you can see that I have two error messages, and if I take my cursor over one of these messages, what NetBeans is telling me is not really specific. It's not telling me that I'm missing one of the opening braces. So that's what I was trying to say, that NetBeans may not be always that specific. It may not exactly tell you what is the problem. So you need to go over your program and spot the problem. Another example of a compile time error could be if you look at this word system, the first letter should be capitalized. So let's say if I type lowercase, I'm going to get compile time error because it's not able to find a class name system with lowercase. Please remember, Java is case sensitive language. So this could be another problem. One more example I can think of is, let's say this is a text which has to be within double quotes. So what if I forgot to put the closing quotation mark? So you can see that you're going to get a error message, and you see this red dot on left hand side of that statement. So these are a few examples of compile time error. In a summary, anytime you don't follow syntax rules of the language, you're going to get a compile time error. So let's move on to runtime error. Runtime errors occurs when you successfully compile your program, and then your program, when you go to the execution part, that's where you're going to see runtime error. That means when you try to run your program. Now these runtime errors can occur because of the system limitations. They may occur because of that programmer did not follow best programming practices. Or so to give you some examples, you have an operation which is going to exhaust your system's memory. So system going to give you out of memory runtime error. Or you are doing a task where probably you are dividing a number by 0, so you're going to get a runtime error. So any mathematical operation which fails to execute or fails to complete, or any uh, operation within your program which may exhaust system resources, or your program may not be able to find a system resource. In those kind of situations, you're going to get a runtime error. So let me give one example of runtime error. Let's say if I say system.out.println, and then let's say if I say 5 divided by 0. Now this is a divide by 0 problem, and if I try to run this program, you can see that I get something like exception in thread main java.lang arithmetic exception divide by 0. So if you have runtime errors, normally Java will show you some message, and in a summary it's basically because you did not follow good programming practice. Other examples of runtime errors could be, for example, array index out of bounds, so you are trying to access an element which is out of bound, or you are trying to open a file which may not exist or may not have read permissions. So these are some examples of runtime errors. Now let's move on to logical errors. Logical errors are those errors where we are expecting some output, but we don't get that output in our program, but we get maybe a little bit different or entirely different output. So logical errors are very difficult to spot most of the time within your program, because there is some logic mistake, or there is some problem with the flow of the logic within your program. Uh, Here is one example of a logical error. Let's say if I use the same statement, this one, 5 divided by 2. So we should be getting output as 2.5, right? So let's try to run this program, and instead our output says 5 divided by 2 is 2, which is incorrect. The reason is because we are doing integer division. 5 and 2 both are integers, so Java basically truncating the result 2.5 to 2. So this is an example of a logical error. So I can correct this problem, maybe making one of these numbers as a decimal number or floating point number, or you can make both if you want. So now if I try to run, I get the correct result. So in a summary, you could end up getting 3 different types of error messages: compile time error, that means you did not follow syntax rules of the language; runtime error, that means either there was some mathematical operation or there was some system resources related problem. And the third one is logical error, where you did not get the output which you were expecting. Thank you.